this faithful podcast with me, your host, Sir Hans, and my brother,
AK.
Yeah. And today, then we have a special one as always, but this one is real special.
Very, very special.
We say we're gonna mix it up and bring some ladies up here, and we have some phenomenal women up here with us.
Yeah.
And we can't wait for you guys to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, man. So today, we have the privilege to sit with two talented, beautiful ladies. We here with the founders of Colors of Roses Foundation. None other Dr. Dasi and Tracy. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
No problem,
Thank you.
no problem. So, man, let's get to it. Dr. Dasi, could you please tell us how you came up with the idea of the NGO?
Well, I'd like to thank you all once again for inviting us here at the podcast to talk about our story, talk about the vision and the mission of Colors of Roses Foundation. Colors of Roses Foundation was birthed out of a passion to serve humanity. And the name Roses, it was a name that was deliberated, I would say, for over 6 months. And I was thinking, how do I call this foundation? And boom, right there, the name came about, Colors of Roses. And roses are very beautiful flowers. You give them to people when you're in love, you give them to people on special occasions, you also give them to people when they pass. But most of the time, roses are mostly given to people when, they have passed on. And at that moment in their life, they cannot smell the beautiful essence or smell of the roses. They cannot see how beautiful it is. So when we came up with the name Colors of Roses was to see how we can give people roses, but the roses in the terms of the impact that we bestow upon their life that will bring a tremendous change while they're still alive, while in that way they can smell it, they can benefit from it, they can appreciate it, and it makes their life worth living.
That's really good. That's well thought. Well, when you speak of impact, right? Mm-hmm. Could you please tell us what influence, what made you come up with, the organization?
Mm-hmm. So, Colors of Roses Foundation, our mission is to elevate or ameliorate the mission of our foundation is to improve or through amelioration the socioeconomic lives of orphan and underprivileged children through agriculture, healthcare, and education. So these three services are the core services of the foundation. And if you look at what the world is built on, it's built on agriculture, it's built on education, and it's built on healthcare. So those three aspects are interconnected when you're talking about development in the world. Now, why do we choose orphans and underprivileged as our target population? These are individuals that are already being sidelined by the society and again, they are being labeled as vulnerable children. And most of the time, they were not born to be vulnerable. It's just the condition in which they were brought into this world. And some of them, find it hard to grow up and become self-sustainable. What I mean by self-sustainable is the fact that they are able to take care of themselves. Today in the world, there are several people with similar visions that are out there and are impacting the lives of these children. Mm-hmm. So Colors of Roses Foundation is also another branch within that big tree that is making the same difference, but just in different communities. Because I believe that if we have a tree, of all these philanthropies that we come together and we expand our tentacles in different communities to elevate the lives of those children, then the world will be a better place.
So just to add on to what she's saying, when you're talking about being of service, it's not, you look at, there's so many, like she said, there's so many organizations out there, so many different NGOs and other people doing similar things, but the truth about it is you can never do enough. You can never say that because there's this organization here doing that, then the need is met. Because the truth is the need is never met. There's always going to be one thing that is not covered by somebody else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt if you know that, you know, there are people out there who need this, and if you're able to give them even more so that they have enough to sustain them for a longer period. So why not jump into it and give a lending hand where it's needed? So that's one of the things that we thought about when we decided to do this. Because, you know, you hear a lot of people, oh, why are you doing this? There's this foundation, there's this orphanage, there's this, there's that. But there's the services, the need is always going to be there. And not one organization can provide everything and cover everything. Right. So whatever we can give or help in our little own way is going to make a very big difference, you know, whoever we're trying to impact.
They say half a bread is better than none. So, you know.
So ladies, I want to ask you guys, because you guys have pretty much covered the general aspect of what the foundation is. So I want to find out, is it like, you know the same way they say, don't give me fish, but teach me how to fish? Is it what you guys are doing?
So I would say yes, because we have different projects. You want to talk about the project we did last year?
Yeah, sure. So again, our main goal is impacting life through it. So we're engaging these children to learn how to be self-sustainable through agriculture, healthcare, and education. So one of our key projects that we've been working on is the One Orphanage, One Greenhouse project. And this project is in partnership with Greenhouse Ventures. Greenhouse Ventures is a sole distributor and proprietor of the greenhouse technology in Cameroon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with greenhouse technology, but this is a very innovative way of growing crops year round, because you understand that crops are in agriculture, the seasonal agriculture where you can grow crops just in a certain season. Right. But with Greenhouse Ventures, you can grow crops year round. So our organization has partnered with Greenhouse Ventures to work on a project called One Orphanage, One Greenhouse, whereby we identify orphanages, we carry out an assessment to identify orphanages that are qualified to have a greenhouse donated to them. So as of now, we have donated a greenhouse at an orphanage in Cameroon called the Helping Hands Children's Home. And
what part of Cameroon?
In the northwest region of Cameroon, in Zimbabwe, and that's a home of about 35 children. And through that project, we are glad to say that we are engaged, not just the orphans, but also the orphanage as a whole into the practice of sustainable agriculture. Through our partnership with Greenhouse, these children have learned about greenhouse technology. They have also learned about how to grow crops. They have also learned about, what the technology itself as far as the growing crops, the entire process of planting all the way to harvesting. Okay. So when you talk about don't give me fish, but teach me how to fish, that is what we have been doing, making that impact, because our goal is that when a child becomes of age, when they have to graduate out of the orphanage, they are left with a skill that they can, rely on to grow crops, to sell them, and the money that is going to the income that will be generated from the produce from that greenhouse, they can use it to sustain themselves. Right. So that's great. Another project that we did in December is our annual humanitarian health mission. What I have to say is that Colors of Roses Foundation is a year and a couple of months old, but we are proud to say that within this period we have achieved a lot. Yeah. We have really achieved a lot. So in December of last year, we launched our first annual humanitarian health mission under our healthcare services. And flagship program is to reduce maternal and infant mortality. What actually prompted us to pick up that duty as a flagship program under the healthcare services of the foundation was the story of Monique. I don't know if you all heard about the story of Monique.
No, not sure. Do you want to shed light on that?
No. Well, so far, the story of Monique basically is a lady who passed away in Douala at Clinic Hospital. She was pregnant with twins, and the report, exactly. That's
we know about the story, but we just don't know her name.
And because it's Monique, it happens in a wide range of different things. It just shows how lacking and how needy people are just to get basic health care.
Yes. So the story of Monique is just one of the cases where that brought to light the need of prenatal care, in women in not just in Cameroon, but in Africa as a whole. So when we picked up that platform, our goal was to educate women on the importance of prenatal care. Because when you're talking about orphan and underprivileged children, there's so many factors that contribute as to why a child becomes orphan, of which one of them is maternal mortality. And a woman can die in the process of being during pregnancy. She can die immediately after birth, or she can die in the process of giving birth. So what we've been able to do through our annual humanitarian health mission is to go to Cameroon, educate women on the importance of prenatal care. This time around, when we went, we also provided prenatal vitamins to women. Prenatal vitamins is very important for the development of the baby. It's also important for the mother as well.
Right.
So through our partnership with Vitamin Angels, we were privileged to be to receive donations of prenatal vitamins and vitamin A for the children. So when we went to Cameroon, in the south and northwest region of Cameroon, we distributed prenatal vitamins to I would say 500 women, and we were able to administer vitamin A to 163 women, of which the process is still going on, because we have a stock that will serve almost about 3,000 children. So as we speak, our partners on the ground are doing the work to continue the effort to provide vitamin A and prenatal vitamins to women who are in need of it.
That's really, all that really sounds great. Not to take it back, like far back, but you said for you were able to provide this greenhouse program, what am I looking for? The orphanage home has to be qualified. Like when you say qualified, what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, the qualification basically means that it's not just providing the greenhouse to an orphanage. It's about it's about making sure that the orphanage can maintain the greenhouse, use the greenhouse for the purpose of which it was being given, and also making sure that there is measurable, the impact of the greenhouse can be measured. Because if we, as a non-profit foundation, when you're soliciting for funds to carry out your project, you need to give out measurable reports. So when it comes to the qualification of an orphanage, for an orphanage to receive a greenhouse as a donation, number one, the orphanage has to have land.
Okay.
Not just a land, but the land has to be registered under the orphanage, that this land is owned by the orphanage. Two, there must be accessibility of water. So even if they don't have water, a tap or a water system on the premises of an orphanage, but it's within a walkable distance. Three, the orphanage, Scholars of Roses Foundation and Greenhouse Ventures come in a memorandum of understanding. What is memorandum of understanding is basically that this greenhouse, this is my responsibility, this is the orphanage responsibility, and this is the greenhouse responsibility. So the orphanage have to be able to identify some of his children that are interested in engaging into the practice of greenhouse. They have to be able to report to us that, okay, when the greenhouse was donated, when it was planted, during the seeding phase of seeding the crops, we planted, let me say for example, right now we've been planting tomatoes, cucumbers and bell peppers. So we planted, let me say, 60 seeds of bell peppers. Out of the 60 seeds of bell peppers, we harvested this quantity of bell peppers. Out of this quantity of bell peppers or cucumbers or tomatoes, we were able to sell them to generate this amount of income. And the income that was generated, it was used to foster the aptitude or increase the aptitude of the children in the STEM discipline, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that is how we base our qualification of the orphanage that we want to donate a greenhouse to. Okay. Because we don't just want to donate a greenhouse and then we don't see an impact.
Yeah, and the thing too is, being a not-for-profit organization, we are being solicited funds from people who basically are donating their money.
Mhm.
So you don't want to invest into something that a year down the line,
That's right.
it just goes
Right.
down the water.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure that while helping these orphanages, it's going to be a long-term process, not just a one-year process.
Mhm.
So working with
Greenhouse
with
Ventures.
Greenhouse Ventures, they have committed themselves to work with us and the orphanage for a period of 1 year to
Mhm.
ensure that the orphanage and the owner and the proprietors and the children there understand what it takes to maintain a greenhouse for a long period of time, so that it's not just this year we're excited about it and then the next year you go there and it's
Yeah.
dry.
Mhm.
So and just like she said, it's a source of income for the orphanage as well, because if they can grow their crops and harvest these crops and sell these crops, then that's an extra revenue for them to sponsor these orphanages.
Mhm.
These children who are there pay for education, maybe further, go to specialty schools
Mhm.
to do more STEM education, provide books and clothing and
Mhm.
food for them.
Mhm.
So that kind of that cuts down on their costs that they normally would have if they didn't have this extra income coming from somewhere else, which is completely maintained by them and most likely wouldn't cost much,
Mhm.
because you're planting and you're getting back your resources to replant the next year. You don't have to go out and
Exactly.
purchase.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that
Yes.
cuts down on your costs as far as other little expenditures that most likely could have happened.
Right.
And the other thing that she had talked about too, which I wanted to add on, was she talked about teaching, not giving you fish, but teaching me how to fish.
Yes.
So like the children, when you able to learn how to manage a greenhouse,
Mhm.
that's a skill that once you step out of the orphanage and you become independent,
Mhm.
that's a skill that maybe you as the child or the orphan, I don't want to call him orphan, but as a child, you can use that could become maybe a business. You could become an entrepreneur.
Yes, in that, yes.
That's a way for them, so that when they grow up, we all know how African countries are, not to belittle African countries, but we know that resources are not as
Accessible.
gross and
Mhm.
accessible as they are in European and Western nations.
Yeah.
So that's a way for the child to become more self-dependent and less dependent on the government.
Yes.
You can go out and know that, okay,
Mhm.
I may not have a government job, but at least I have this knowledge
Yeah.
to be able to be self-sustained and possibly even create employment for other
For
people.
other people,
So
exactly.
That's the whole.
And to add on to what Tracy had said, that whole aspect is grouped under capacity building and knowledge transfer. And through this effort of one greenhouse, one orphanage project, you see that the beneficiaries is not just to the orphans or to the children or to the orphanage as a whole, but you have other indirect beneficiaries. Just for example, the government. The government also benefits in the sense that each country has a ministry that, for example, the Ministry of Social Affairs is in charge of vulnerable children, is in charge of orphanages. If anybody wants to open an orphanage in Cameroon, they have to go through the Ministry of Social Affairs. And I don't know how it is in Cameroon, but I believe the government provides a little support for these orphanages for them to be able to take care of the children. Now, by donating a greenhouse to the orphanage, you see that the orphanage benefits, the children also benefit, and the government and the ministries, the different branches of the government also become beneficiaries, because what you're doing, you're providing extra, assistance,
Right.
additional assistance to elevate the lives of those children.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just feel that's very important that you guys implemented that agricultural part of your foundation, because that's very important. As a person who is very big on agriculture, I feel like Africa as a nation, that's the way we have to look into and moving forward economically. And my question is going to tie into everything. So we all know it's very difficult to do business in Africa, and your foundation, I know, is on like a year old, and I want to find out how difficult was it, because to do business in Cameroon is one thing, because there's so many challenges. You have to be able to sustain that business, and it can easily like fail.
Well, what I would say is, when it comes to doing business, whether it's business for profit or business for non-profit or whatever definition of business that somebody may be operating, is one, to be knowledgeable. Basic knowledge at least is a good foundation to begin any project. Most of the time, people rush into project without doing their homework.
Right.
What I mean by homework is you have to go on the drawing board. I'm a visionary person. When I think of something, Tracy can tell you, she's been my friend for a long time, I see pictures. I'm a pictorial person. So when I have ideas that are floating within my brain, it needs to come out.
Yeah.
And in order for it to come out, if it doesn't come out, I don't have rest.
Yeah.
And I tell my friend, it's like, my head is like helium balloons with the particles bombarding each other. It's like the letters and the words and the sentences are just bombarding each other. But when it comes out, I go on the drawing board and I lay for the plan.
Paint a picture.
Exactly, you paint a picture. Now, it may not be a perfect picture,
Yeah.
but you have somewhere to start. When you fail along the way, it's a lesson. When you fall, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
When things doesn't go well, you go back on the drawing
And
board.
one thing about working in Africa, especially being based here in the United States and working in Cameroon, you have to know that, like you said, any business is a risk. If you're not willing to take the risk and consider the risk and the possible failures that you may come across, then you're not ready to be able to do that, especially when you're working from two different continents.
Yes.
Because you have to consider the communication process, you have to consider people on the other side who you have to trust and rely on to carry out activities for you when you're not there yourself physically to foresee and look and follow up. So those are all things that you have to consider. If you're not willing to take such risk, then most likely you're not willing.
Yeah, but one thing that I really want to emphasize was with Colors for Roses Foundation, there's power in partnership. We have just 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 feet, 1 mouth, 2 ears, but yet we can't do everything by ourselves.
Right.
So we have been able to successfully carry out activities in our first year through the power of partnership. And how do we partner? We don't just partner with organizations because we want to partner with organizations. There is a difference when it comes to building partnership. So the way we work is that we go through a vetting process. What I mean by vetting process, all of us can be doing the same thing, right? But is the method by which you apply to carry out your own activity that makes a difference. So we look at our services, agriculture, healthcare, and education, and say, okay, these are our 3 core services, and these are the programs in which we want to implement under the services. We look on the ground, which is Cameroon, and our 2 target regions that we are operational in the southwest and in the northwest region. And then we identify groups. It could be the government, it could be other non-profit organizations that are working within similar scope of duties. And when we identify all these organizations, we go through their track record. How successful have they been?
Yeah.
How long have they been in existence? What is their record? In the impact. Do they identify the problems within the community, the target communities that we want to serve, and within the target population that we want to provide benefit to? And if they identify the problem, how have they been able to provide solutions to that problem? And if we are coming in as partners from another part of the world or continent, the additional resources that we are bringing, or whatever it is that we are bringing that is adding to that, is it going to scale up the impact?
Right.
So we look at all of that.
So do their mission statement and your mission statement have to be in line?
Well, yes, it has to be. When you're working in partnership with somebody, you want to make sure that there's a mutual, there's a mutual, yes, there's a mutual passion. There's something that connects the both of you.
Right.
So take for example, when we went to Cameroon to, going back, I'll give you 2 examples. First was greenhouse. So with greenhouse technology, we already knew that we had agriculture in our, in our mission. Agriculture is part of our services. Now, the greenhouse technology, or the greenhouse company, is a sole proprietor. It's the only company in Cameroon that, you know, builds greenhouses, and they have set forth a reputable effort not just in Cameroon but also internationally.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we partnered with them, and so we're introducing this new technology. We're taking it from the agriculture part of it. We're taking it from just building greenhouses, but now we want to bring it to orphanages. So you see where that mutual connection came in.
Yeah.
So now, when it comes to our healthcare services, when I talk about maternal and infant mortality, when we went to Cameroon, we also provided, other different kind of healthcare services, ranging from, diabetic screening, ophthalmology services, hypertension, consultation. So what we did, we went through the Ministry of Health, and we said, this is what we want to do, this is our focus, and we want to work because it's the Ministry of Health. You cannot just go into somebody else's country and you want to operate. You have to you have to seek and follow proper protocol.
Right.
Yes, and the Ministry of Health were very, very pleased with the idea, and we, through that partnership and that mutual goal to reduce, maternal and infant mortality rate in Cameroon, they were able to, connect us with groups on the ground that operate in similar capacity, to make sure that we are working together. I will tell you that when we went to Cameroon, at that time in Limbe, there was shortage of vitamin A. So when we came to Limbe and we went to meet the district medical officer, they said, okay, we have vitamin A, we have prenatal vitamins that we want to give. And she said there was vitamin A. We said, wow, because right now there is shortage.
And what does vitamin A do?
Well, vitamin A is very essential. It's an essential vitamin for children. It helps to build up the immune system.
Okay.
Deficiency of vitamin A can cause blindness of a child. It can also, when the immune system is compromised, the child stands at risk of developing different diseases. Now, if we are fighting infant mortality, we need to look at look at some important preventive. That's the word, preventive. We need to take preventive measures. Vitamin A is almost like, they call it vitamin A vaccination, but it's actually a capsule that when you cut it, it comes liquid, so you just squeeze in the child's mouth.
Okay.
So you have different doses. So to go back to your question of being here in the US and working on the ground, there are challenges. But overcoming those challenges is what makes you a leader. It's what builds your organization and build that authentic trust that, these people, they are working. And how does the work that you do at the ground level meet the goal of the country, and how does that contribute to the global goals? Our foundation, our mission, and our vision is guided by the United Nations Development Goals for 2030. So by 2030, the UN set forth goals that the world have to meet. So each person have to do their part. The government have their own role to play, NGOs have their own role to play, businesses have their own role to play, and citizens have their own roles to play. So when we talk about working, and I talk about partnership is the last goal number 17 of this United Nations Development Goals. So we must identify key partners that play key roles that we can come together for a greater impact.
That's great. So the greenhouse, Tracy, the financial aspect of it. So most of the funding, does it come from abroad, or can you say you could go to Cameroon and get most of the funding there?
So we being a not-for-profit, we rely a lot on fundings from generous donations. And also we have tried to generate fundings from different things, like we do GoFundMe, and also we have put up our own personal support money to start it, because we're new. Not many people know about us yet, but we've been able to do a lot. And so those donations that come in, that's what we are dependent on to help us finance these little projects, and not just donations, not just monetary donations, but also goods, like the vitamins and the vitamin A we got, the prenatal vitamins that we got. Those were all donated to us, so we're able to provide the services. And once these are done and we're able to provide the services, we have to show to the people who donated to us that this is what we use these resources for.
Right.
Because you don't just take people's things and sit on, and you have this hat that you are a non-for-profit organizing this. You have to show proof that you're doing it, and you have to show, the impact you're having, so that it brings in more, and it brings in more loyal partners. Thank you.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to lose our partnerships that we have.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose our trust, because this is something that we're very passionate about. Sylvia touched about it. We've known each other since we were
Childhood.
kids in Minden. We're down from Middle Farm.
Shout out to Middlefell Homes.
Shout out to your family in there. So we've known each other for that long.
Yeah.
So we've had similar passions. The funny thing is, I don't know, going back to I think the first question, because it's something that we really hold dear.
Yes.
I had always thought about my long-term goal in my life was to open an orphanage. After I worked, done the whole retirement thing, was to open an orphanage.
Excuse me, you guys have mentioned like opening an orphanage or doing all this great work. Like, I'm trying to get down to the root. Like, what was the trigger that hit you guys in your head?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, Tracy,
That's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. So I would say that I didn't grow up privileged in Cameroon, but I didn't grow up poor.
Oh, yeah.
My mother was hardworking. She came up from a family that had 9 kids, and they struggled.
I think that's pretty much
A lot of people's story.
Yes.
So, but she was able to, she's a police officer. She did Avon. I think she was one of the first people to do Avon in Cameroon. That sent me. She sent me. I went to BHS Boya.
Yeah.
I was privileged enough to, to do a lot of things that many of my peers were able to do.
Okay.
So, being an only child, I wasn't spoiled. Let me in quotes, because she would always remind me, that this is what you have that other people don't have. And she made it a principle. Mm-hmm. And having that in my head, and coming to the United States and coming here with a certain perception that everybody here was well-to-do, mm-hmm. and then you come here and you see the similar struggles, but in different ways. Yes. It just made me realize that, okay, so when you're able to help people, when you have the resources, you may not have the resources, but when you have the desire and the passion, don't just sit on it. Yeah. Do something about it. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to do social work in the United States. Many people told me, why are you doing social work? Social work doesn't pay, and they don't make much money, and blah, 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 go to nursing. I said no. Social work is what I want to do, because I had a long-term goal that, okay, I don't just want to do something that gives me money in my pocket, but something that can, down the line, use my education and my experience to foster and help others develop themselves. Right. So that was the whole idea, and I had started thinking about it. I think I was 25, I was doing after retirement plan, one of those projects they give you in social work. So I'm like, okay, after retirement, what do you want to do? I don't want to sit down and watch TV and go to the library every day. I want to still be able to create impact in somebody else's life. So I was like, okay, so I think possibly having some kind of orphanage or some service in that sector that is helpful to children in Cameroon was what I was thinking, especially because there's so much going on. We have children of third world countries have a lot of challenges right from birth. Yeah. They are faced with a lot of challenges, and not even talk about the ones who don't have parents to support them and encourage them when they're down and when they don't see a light. So I thought to myself, that's the best way to go, because if you give a child knowledge from birth, and they can grow with that, then they can take themselves to wherever they want to go. Yeah, that is rule number 1 for me. And I had the idea. For me, it was something I was going to do after retirement, and then one day Sylvia called me, and she said, Tracy, I have this idea. I'm like, what is it? And she said, I want to open this foundation to do this. I was like, oh, goodness. Sylvia, were you in my dream? And I told her what my plan was, and she screamed. I'm like, okay, so obviously God is doing something here. And that's how,
So do you want to add to that or tell us what was the trigger in you?
Well, each of us had our own different experience as to what really ignited us to come up with a foundation. For me, I have been in the philanthropic world, I would say, for, including Colors of Roses now, for about 10, 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I can never tell my story without talking about the African Women's Cancer Awareness Association, because that was where it all started. Well, let me say that was the second moment where the second place where it all started. The first place where it started was when I was in school in PCS Agbor. It's a boarding school, and the house mother one day was addressing the girls in front of the girls' dormitory, and she taught us about a self-breast examination. So when she was talking about cancer awareness, and she talked about self-breast examination. After she talked about that, 2 weeks after that, I examined my breast, and I realized there was a lump in my breast. And I told my friends, I said, oh, I feel something in my breast. And they said, are you serious? Are you serious? I said, yes. So I went home. The next day, that was on a weekend, so the very next day I went back to the house mother. I was 14 then. I went back to the house mother and I said, this is what I have found. So she took me to the school clinic, and the school nurse examined me and said they could feel the same thing, so they sent me home. When they sent me home, I went to the hospital, they gave me medication, then after that I came back to school, but yet, the medication was supposed to dissolve the lump. It was kind of like a steroid, so it was a gel that I had to apply, it was supposed to dissolve the lump, but it didn't. After that I went home. So when I went home again the second time. When I went home, now I had to go for surgery so they could take the lump out. So when they took the lump out, they sent it to the lab, and good thing, it was not cancer. It was a benign tumor. Fast forwarding, when I came to the state, and one day, one of my uncles said, Sylvia, there's an event that I want to go to, and I want you to come with me. So when I went to that event, it was a fundraising gala for the African Women's Cancer Awareness Association. So during the fundraising event, they talked about cancer, cancer awareness, women's cancer awareness in the United States, talk about in Africa. They also showed a video clip of, the medical outreach that they did in Nigeria. So it really moved me. It moved me knowing my own little experience that I had, and I said, okay, if you're talking about cancer and you're talking about how it's affecting younger women these days, because sometimes when people hear about disease, some diseases, they say, oh, it's an old people's disease. Of course, there are diseases that come as a result of aging. As we age, there's a tendency for us to develop metabolic disease or other diseases. So after that event, I got to connect with the lady of the foundation, and one day I met her and I said, oh, I'd really like to be a part of the foundation because this is what happened to me. So she said, that's fine. So once in a while, I will volunteer, I'll go out to outreach, I'll talk about my story, inspired young girls, talk to women, early detection is the key. It even prompted me when I was doing my Ph.D. dissertation to focus on breast cancer. And the research that I did was to look at benign tumors, just like the ones that I had, the one that I had, and see if a woman is diagnosed with a benign tumor that is not cancerous, if they don't take it out, will that tumor progress to become cancer?
Okay.
And with the genetic principles that I used to justify my research, it did show that yes, if it's not taken out, then the woman stands a chance of that may progress onto cancer.
Right.
So during the period of me doing my graduate years of school, doing my PhD, I also continued volunteering in this foundation.
Okay.
And during this foundation, I learned a lot because she taught me a lot of things about NGOs. The president taught me a lot of things about managing a non-profit organization, all the paperwork. It was like at that point in time, so my interest began to shift between molecular science into public health. I started understanding that there is a need, that there's a health need within each community, and bringing solution to their need, meeting the need, it makes an impact in people's health.
Yeah.
Especially living in United States where there's so many barriers in people accessing care due to diverse reasons, one of which, you know, is immigration.
Right.
So I learned a lot, but fast forwarding, so again, within that period, I also started traveling to African countries for medical outreaches. Then I started, with the first outreach that I went in 2011 was in Nigeria. And that was my second time being out of the US, but so close to Cameroon, but I had not been to Cameroon yet at that time. So when I went to Nigeria, I went to remote villages and I said, wow, people are really suffering. I came back 2013, we went to Cameroon to do the same medical outreach. I came back 2015, I went to Tanzania. I came back, I said, no, people are really in need of healthcare.
Right.
There is a big gap. Then when I came back, after that, I left African Women Cancer Awareness Association. Then I moved into my present job. I now realized and I said, there is so much information and so much knowledge that I have learned that if I keep it just within myself, people would die and the guilt would be on me.
Yeah.
The guilt would be on me. So for 1.5 years, I sat down and I drew out the vision for Colors of Roses. And that's why I tell people, I say, write the vision down and make it plain. Have a picture of what you want to do. So after that 1.5 years, you know, I started Colors of Roses Foundation. The name came about, and we did our paperwork. We got approved as a non-profit organization, and from there.
What does it take? Like, could you tell us the process, the paperwork process?
The paperwork process, basically, first of all, you need to get registered in your various states. In any state that you are, you need to go to the respective government agency that handles the registration of registering a non-profit organization. Here in the Maryland is the Department of, I think, Taxation. Yeah, something taxation. That's where you register your non-profit organization. And before you register it, you need to have the mission, the vision. You need to come up with the board because all of that information is needed.
Yeah. So pretty much a business plan.
Yeah, kind of like a business plan. Yes. But you know, business plans differ. If it's different for profit or non-profit or whatever entity that you want to create.
Right.
Yes, but the name, the business name, board, mission, vision, well, that's for the beginning, right? That's the major information that they ask.
Okay.
Then after that, you have to apply to get your non-profit certificate. You have to be recognized by the IRS as a non-profit.
Okay.
So you have to fill out the application. It's a long application with the IRS website. You have to fill it out. You have to send it to the IRS. And these days, I will tell you that if everything is okay with your application, there's no fault, you know, there's no question, the IRS will approve you. But there's a difference between getting approval and maintaining approval. Because it's not just getting a non-profit certificate, but you have to maintain. You have to report back every year.
The getting is easy.
The getting
is easy.
It's hard.
Yes, maintaining it hard. Because most of the time people think that, oh, because I'm now a non-profit, that's it. No, it's not.
You have to show the work that you're doing and the effect that it's having. I have to say, you know, just for Sylvia, doing all this paperwork, she took the bulk of the work. And with the information that she had gained prior, she was able to enforce that, and she did a lot. I myself was amazed because I had no idea how to go about opening a non-for-profit, and she had everything, you know, down to T. Down to the T.
Yes.
That's how they do it.
You're a very thorough person. You're very well thought out of whatever you want to pursue. And that's very good because a lot of people would just go fill in the paperwork and turn in and they feel like, you know,
oh, that's it. No, that's not it. That's where the work even begins. Because trust me, the day you don't report back to the IRS, you don't report back to the state, they come knocking at your door.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
There
will
are
come
a lot of agencies out there who call themselves not-for-profits, and really they're not doing a not-for-profit. You know, sometimes, unfortunately, people use it as a cover up for one or other good things they're doing. So you know, one of it is you have to make sure, you have to prove yourself and prove to the IRS and prove to the people you're serving that I'm here for you. I'm not just using you to gain resources for myself.
Right.
So that's the whole.
So in one word, you have to be transparent.
I mean, the reason why we get into details about this question is because like we want to inspire somebody else to be able to do this. You know what I mean? So I want to actually like to piggyback on the greenhouse partnership. Like, were you already on the ground doing work and then went to them and showed them, or did you go there and just knock on the door and say, hey, this is what we trying to do? Do you think you could, you know?
Can you re-ask that question again?
Like, were you guys, because the foundation was only a year old, right? So I'm saying that, I'm sure that's probably one of your biggest partners in the foundation. So I'm saying, like, were you guys already on the ground doing like work and then took that back and reported to them and say, look, this is what we've been doing?
You mean to greenhouse?
Yes.
No.
We're not doing the greenhouse at the time, but we had done other projects. We had done the Christmas project.
Yes.
We gave out
The Christmas gift, but
No, I'm saying to get greenhouse on board.
no. So this is what happened, right? The CEO of Greenhouse is my senior in school. Yes, he was in Form 5, I was in Form 1. Yes, but at that time, you know, being a Form 1 and a Form 5, what do you guys have in common? Other than go here, go there, go there. But what I'll say about the CEO is he's a very intelligent man. And at that time in school, you know, you just look at him like a senior. But he has been very, very, very productive in his work. So Greenhouse Ventures is about 3.5 going to 4 years now. And of every success story that I can share or that you will learn, you know, Greenhouse Ventures is one of them. So I've been following his work, you know, on Facebook. I've been following his work from when he started, from the first greenhouse that he planted to now. But in 2015, you know, at that time we had this Colors of Roses Foundation idea, you know, we were working on the plan, everything. So myself and I was invited to a fundraising event in New Jersey. So I went to New Jersey. When I went to New Jersey, lo and behold, CEO of Greenhouse was in New Jersey. And we were also, there were other alumni of the secondary school that we went to in Boyer, also in New Jersey at that same event. So around the time when the event was coming to a close, I walked up to Greenhouse Ventures and the CEO of Greenhouse Ventures Limited and I said, oh, I want to work with you. There's something I want to discuss with you, and this is the idea that we have. We just registered a foundation, and these are services, and we want to partner with you to see how we can, you know, build up the agriculture arm of our foundation. And I told him about the project, and he just looked at me and he said, Sylvia, we're also thinking about something like that. So I would say we've been lucky in the sense that whoever we approach to share our vision and talk about partnership is in line with what they're already doing.
So pretty much it's just in the right place at the right time.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
So we discussed, and after that we just started talking until the day the first greenhouse in Cameroon was, I would say, was planted. If you go on our website, you'll see it was there.
Alright, let's switch gears a little bit, right? Recently, with the AFCON Cup, Cameroon winning the AFCON Cup, right? The government decided to, you know, dispense 50 million so the team could carry the trophy around the country. So knowing that we have all this poverty going on, knowing that we have the fights going on too, you know, people fight for their rights, poverty and all whatnot. When you guys, you know, you're a non-profit, when you see things like that, like what do you think? I mean, what do you think is going on?
So what do I think is going on as us as a non-profit? Number one, we stand for peace. We first of all stand in solidarity with all those who have lost their lives. We stand in to extend our condolence to the family of those who have lost their life, and to those that are really fighting on the ground, because we being in the diaspora, we are not in the forefront. They are in the forefront. It's not easy. I was in Cameroon in December, and in as much as at that time it was festivity season and there was, I would say, suspension of the strike a little bit so people can celebrate, I could see the first hand of the difficulties that the people are facing. But above all, there's something that I want to talk about, and in as much as I have a degree in genetics, I also hold a certificate in international studies. And one thing that I learned in that class, or during taking a certificate in that class, is what is called diplomacy. There's something called preventive diplomacy. Preventive diplomacy basically means that when there's crisis, you want to do everything as much as possible to prevent the escalation of the crisis to become a war. So, and part of the different function of preventive diplomacy, one is humanitarian aid, and that is where we stand in. And as a non-profit foundation, that is where we stand, and that is where we come in. Because when there is, instability in any community, any region, any geographic region of the world, and we see that there is need, of course, there's also need for humanitarian activity. Where I see us coming in as a foundation is through our healthcare services. People are being injured all the time, whether it's in, the region of the country where there is, strike, or is the region of the country where there is no strike. I believe that there is a need in the healthcare services. And no matter what, that's why we are still determined as a foundation to carry on our second annual humanitarian help mission to Cameroon. Many people have said, oh, Sylvia, with the strike, with what is happening in the country, are you still going to go? And I said, you know what? Until when Cameroon has been declared a non-viable, what I mean by non-viable, meaning that there is no life existing in Cameroon, then that's when I'm not going to go.
Right. We pray it doesn't get to that.
Well, of course, we pray it doesn't get to that. But as long as people are living there, people are still, there's always going to be a need.
And as long as we have access to be able to go back and render the services, because at the same time, even though we are here to provide the services, we are also being allowed. We have to go to the right channel.
Yes,
so as long as those channels and those the government agencies and give us that privilege to go and render the services, then yes, we will continue to do what we need to do to provide them.
The purpose of our podcast is stuck in the middle. We try to find ways. We try to encourage the masses. Try to make them understand that, like you said, do not see their ideas. Feel free. Feel free to work on what you're thinking of, because you don't know tomorrow. My very next question is, knowing that you started your nonprofit here, right? And you're serving the community in Cameroon, and you're not planning on just leaving it right there. You're planning on serving other countries in Africa as well, correct? There are challenges that you face, knowing that, there's a different system here and there's a different system back there. Like, how do you on a day-to-day basis, how do you handle all those crises, knowing that people have different mentalities, people have different ways of thinking and ways of going about things. How do you handle that?
See, let me tell you, whenever you're in the forefront, you have to develop what I call
perseverance.
Self-bulletproof. Well, what I mean by bulletproof does not mean, bullet that comes from a gun, but
you have to create a thick skin.
A thick skin, yeah. A thick skin. See, the power about the work that we do is, one, you have to express the value of integrity. A lot of time people will doubt you. People will question you. People will look at you and say, what are you trying to do that others have not done before?
Being a woman, is it harder?
Well, to me, right, I don't think it's hard because I'm a go-getter.
Okay.
See, I would do anything to make sure, when I say anything, not anything that negative, do something negative.
Right.
But I will do anything in the aspect that I will go through all the right channel to make sure that the services that we want to channel across to, for the people that are on the ground that need it, we are able to obtain all the necessary approval. That's one thing that I don't know if I read it or somebody said it, but I will quote. It says, a closed door is not a locked door. All you have to do is to push. That's where my energy comes from. So a lot of times, we have to go through the right channel. You have to go to the government and present your platform.
Yeah.
You have to tell the government, this is what I'm doing. So sometimes people are already, they self-limit themselves just the fact that they have to go meet somebody. Go. Talk to that person. Like I said, the person may not agree with you. The person may not find your project
worthy of the
not necessarily worthy of the time, but they may not see the impact or the future, the long-term impact of what you want to do at the ground level, at the beginning stages.
Yeah.
But be persistent.
Have you come across any like form of bribery or anything working with other people? Like, have you used money to motivate somebody, sway somebody to see what you're trying to put out in the community?
I will not use money to motivate. Wait,
I mean,
let's go back.
Expect that to say that.
Let's go back. Let me say that I have not used money to bribe anybody. When you talk about motivation, now in Cameroon, when we go to Cameroon to do our humanitarian work, there's something that is called motivation. The people who come and volunteer their time, you have to give them some, even if it's to compensate them for their transportation or to compensate them for their energy, that quote unquote motivation. But to use money to bribe, I've never, uppercase, used money to bribe. Use money to bribe anybody to get work done.
So I know you say you're a go-getter, just listening to you, I don't doubt that. But are there moments where you've finally got over that hump, but it was so difficult, and you look back and wonder and say, I bet if I was a male, I wouldn't have to go through so much.
But the thing is that I've never thought about that. You just brought that to my consciousness. Yes, because sometimes people that I've worked with, sometimes they look at me. Tracy can tell you, most of the people that I work with are men, women that are kind of old enough to be my mother, my father, my auntie, my uncle, sometimes my grandfather or my grandmother.
Right.
Yes, but throughout my life of working to serve humanity, I've been surrounded by a milieu of people that it has changed my mentality and my way of thinking. So people look at me sometimes and say, Sylvia, how old are you? And I tell them my age is scream and say, but the way you look, the way you carry yourself, the way you do your things, somebody of this age, wow. But sometimes it's about the struggle. It's about, your journey in life. I told myself, and I said, the only thing that will make me quit in life, not the only thing that will make me quit. The only time I'll say I don't want to do something is when I don't have interest in it. From when I completed my Ph.D, I told myself that if I wanted to quit on something, I would have quitted it.
Yeah.
But because I went through the tough times for 6 years and I graduated, there's nothing that I would set my feet in. Yeah, because if I wanted to give up in life, then it was at that moment I would have given up in life.
And there's one thing too, you cannot, being a woman, I think the difference is when you have it in your mind and you constantly remind yourself, I'm about to get into this venture and I'm a woman. That already is
a limitation.
So sometimes for me, when I do something, I'm not doing it with consciousness that I'm a woman. Because then you start to see how somebody's looking at you wrong, somebody says something to you wrong. You put yourself in that box.
And you're limiting yourself.
So you have to think yourself as somebody who is going out there to do something. Not particularly as a woman. Even though not discounting the fact that there are discriminations and things that happen. But if you're constantly looking for the crack, then you'll find way more cracks that you need to find. So you just go out there and do what you need to do, and that's it.
They say knowledge is key, right? And you've taken it upon yourself to educate yourself. Because if you did not educate yourself, you wouldn't have the passion to keep pushing forward. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Let me just say something. I'm sorry to cut you short, but just to go over. Yeah. So just to add on to what you said, right? So before coming here, one of my friends invited me to have lunch at the Chinese buffet on Laurel Road. So listen. At the end of the day, right? So we each open up our fortune cookie. So this is what mine reads. Listen, a woman who seeks to be equal with a woman who seeks to be equal with men lacks ambition. So
a woman
who seeks to be equal with men lacks ambition.
That's
what
I'm
we
saying.
just talked about.
You cannot go out saying that, oh, if you go out, you have whatever disability that you think you have, and you're conscious about it all the time, looking for other people's reactions, which are going to be there, then you're limiting yourself. Sometimes you have to put on blindfolds on each side. I cannot see left, I cannot see right, all I see is ahead.
Yeah.
That's just how you have to do it.
The statement is true, because if you lack ambition, if you, in a state of mind like that, then you're conscious about your being a woman, being feminine, and you forget about what drives you.
And that's what stops people from doing what they need to do because they're afraid.
What drives you, but when you're working towards achieving your ambition, you forget about the gender side of it.
And you guys are, I'm sure there's pretty much a lot of women before you guys who came and they break some barriers and whatnot, but that's why we started this podcast, to put people like you guys in the forefront, to tell like our young people here that there are people who are out here doing this and that. So don't sit and only see it on TV and idolize it when there's people right here in your community that are doing it. So let's support each other, and one day we'll all be on TV and we're gonna get recognized for whatever we doing. So
because they're seeing everybody on TV and they're like, man, like it's all glamour and all whatnot, but they don't realize that it started right here.
There are people who are doing grassroots work, and the thing about it is, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, the whole recognition aspect of it doesn't really matter. If you're doing it for recognition, you most likely will get recognized. But how successful are you going to be? Because after a while, everybody gets tired of the fame. People get tired of seeing you on TV or hearing your voice on the radio. Most of the most successful people are always behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, doing what they need to do to achieve their goals, their missions, whatever it is. So as much as it's good to have that, drive or exposure, self-motivation, but the main thing is to encourage other people, but not particularly going out seeking the fame and all of that. So I think that's what matters the most, your passion.
Exactly right. Ladies, thank you guys for coming, and I was very thrilled when he told me that you guys were coming through, and I was like, oh, thank God, like we gonna have some females on the podcast. So everybody don't say we discriminated or whatever, and just look at how we ended the show by talking about gender inequality or whatnot.
Well, last question before we close this segment. What advice would you give to us, the young, camera professionals, or the young African professionals?
Because we don't want to limit ourselves.
Yeah, limit ourselves.
People have been listening to this podcast and say, "Oh, you guys only talk about camera, whatever."
You
don't want. We just start on our natural habitat. That's the way.
I would say, from my experience and my view of the world, especially us in the diaspora, I would say that our generation is coming of age. Because we are going from one era into a next. I see an emergence of so many ideas and so many thinking. I have to say, I've had so many ideas, not just as in the perspective, in this field that we're talking about, providing services to our people. I have a lot of other dreams that I've always kept hidden. I'm like, no, I have to stay on the traditional route and go to whatever school and get a degree. I mean, I have a master's degree in social work. I'm currently working on another degree, which are all good things. Education is always going to be a backbone. But what I see in our generation is so many people are beginning to come into themselves. So many young people are coming to themselves. Either they're going to music, fashion and designing, whatever it is, that they're actually pursuing their passions. Not just what my daddy told me to do when I was 5 years old, you need to be a doctor. So we have people in our generations now who are doctors, but who still pursue their passions. Whereas, our parents never did that. Either because they stuck to the grain and followed the traditional path, or they didn't have the resources to be able to do that. So what I see is that we are taking full advantage of the resources that we have, and we're not just engaging in what gives us, enough money to put a roof over your head, but we're engaging in things that make us happy. And when you do something that makes you happy, most likely you're going to be successful at it. And that's what I see happening in our generation right now. So that's one thing that I'm very happy about, and continuously encourage other people, other young people, don't hold back. One thing that I find to be very important is to have a mentor. If you want to do something, you're not sure how to go about doing it, and it's something that you desire to do, find a mentor. I would say, like I said earlier, my plan was to do this when I was, in my retirement years. But when Sylvia came and asked me, I know who Sylvia is. She's a go-getter. I am a go-getter too, but I was, I have a lot of other priorities, so that was a long-term goal for me. So once she said, I'm like, why not? Why wait until I'm 50? Will I still be here? So why not jump with her on the wagon and let's see what we can do? And knowing the experience that she already has, she's kind of like a mentor to me. Because I know, okay, if we are able to go through this bump, she knows she's done this, she's done not-for-profit, she's worked in this already. So, just have a mentor, have somebody who can give you positive encouragement and positive feedback. Because you hear a lot of no's, but what you want to do is surround yourself with people who are going to push you.
Yeah.
People who are going to challenge you into having more complex thoughts, more complex ideas, and help you build that foundation.
And not just that, two heads better than one.
Exactly. And a mentor is somebody who has been there, done that. They can tell you what may be coming down the road. They can tell you what challenges you may be facing and how to go about it, what benefits are. So you can have that, as a guide towards in everything you do. So, that's basically it.
Dr. Dasi?
Thank you. Well, what I have to tell the younger generations that are coming up, those of us that are Africans in the diaspora, or those of us that are first generation or second generation or third generation Africans, meaning that our parents are from Africa, is number one, as Tracy had talked about, we are living within a very dynamic society today, that people change, things change, technology changes, and so do people, and what they pursue in life also changes. There's a phrase that is said that a jack of all trades, master of none, but what I want to say is I want to revert that phrase by saying that become a master of your own trade. Most of the time, growing up, even as teenagers or as Africans in the diaspora, we explore. And being in the society where we have the advantage to explore in different things, we explore. Use that time to explore and to identify what your purpose is. Your purpose can be within your adventure. Your purpose can be out of your adventure. But there comes a time in life where nobody will tell you that this is your purpose. Identifying and working within your purpose is the power to succeed. Sometimes your purpose may not be lucrative. Tracy talked about mentorship. It's very, very important that you have a mentor, somebody that you can run up to for advice. My mentor, the person who trained me with all this knowledge and how to run a non-profit, I still run up to her. And I'm faced with this, I'm faced with that, this is a challenge. How do I go about it? You should never as a motivator. As you go up, as somebody's pulling your hand up,
Pulling somebody else.
pull somebody's hand up too, because that's another generation that will look upon you as a mentor. But above all, I will come back to identifying your purpose. website, website, social media too, yes.